everybody. I'm going to show you some different options for how you can do your at-home paper airplane engineering challenge. So normally when we're at school, we have 3 different courses that we use to test our airplanes. So 2 of the courses are actually located under the roof here of the breezeway. So I just want to point this out because if you have like a garage area or a parking area, you could totally fly your plane in them if there's a roof overhead. So one of our courses is the one right in front of me. We also have a course over this way, and you can also come out here into the open area to also test your paper airplane. So this out here is a great example of a place where you could test your paper airplane. There's lots of open space all around me. There's also this really nice, clearly defined runway, so that way I know where my plane is going to be. If you don't have an open space that's completely open, you can also test it in like a hallway setting like I have here at school. It has a roof over above it, it's got a wall on one side, but that can still work really great for testing a paper airplane because then your paper airplane has less places where it might wander to. So the bottom line is wherever you decide to test your paper airplane, please make sure to put safety #1 priority. We want to make sure we're not testing our paper airplane in the street or someplace where you could get hit by a car. We want to make sure that other people are not around that could get hit in the face by your paper airplane. So please make sure wherever you choose to test your paper airplane that you make sure your safety and the safety of others is your top priority. So once you find a location where you're going to test your paper airplane, you're going to want to mark a place on the ground where you're going to launch your airplane from every single time. It's really important for our control variable that we're always launching our airplane from the same exact location. So there's a couple of different ways that you can mark your starting location. One of the ways that you can mark your starting location is if you happen to have some sidewalk chalk. Sidewalk chalk makes it really nice and easy to draw a line on the ground so that way you know every single time where you're going to launch your plane from. Another example of something you could use to mark your place is to use a rope or a string. This happens to be a jump rope here, and I could do the same thing. I can put that down on the ground so that I know every time I launch my airplane, I'm going to start from the same place. Another option, and this is one that's already here, this ground already has a crack built into it. So if I don't have chalk or a piece of rope or string, or if I don't have some tape, all I need to do is find a natural crack in the ground, and then I can use that for my starting location. So now that I have my starting location, I'm ready to launch my plane. So in order to do this, to make sure that everybody's playing fair, there are a couple of rules about how to launch your plane. First of all, you want to make sure you're standing with your toes right up against the launch line. And I want to make sure when I go to throw this that I'm not taking a step forward as I go to throw, because that is not going to be an accurate measurement. We want to make sure that when we go to throw our plane, both of our feet stay firmly locked to the ground and it's only our arm that is moving. So again, we're not going to start and do a run and then throw. We're not going to stand here and hurl our body across. We're going to make sure when we throw our plane, I stand, I look to make sure my toes are at the line, and I'm going to use only my arm to launch my plane. After you launch your plane, go and find it. Now, I don't want to take this up because then I'm going to lose the measurement. Instead, because it's a little bit windy today, something we like to do when we're in class is we use a metal bottle cap to mark the location of where the plane is. That way, in case as I'm starting to measure, the wind blows, it's not going to blow away the heavier object. So again, you could use an eraser, you could use a pencil. I'm using a metal bottle cap to mark the end of my plane. So now this is where the work begins, because we're going to need to measure how far this plane went from the starting line over there. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this depending on the tools that you have available to you. So I'm going to first show you how you would measure this with a measuring tape. So if I have a retractable measuring tape that I'm going to use, I'm gonna wanna make sure to put it at the start line. And this is where having somebody to help you can be really helpful, because it can be a little bit challenging to use the measuring tape by yourself, but you can do it yourself. You just need to press down with your fingers as you move the measuring tape along. Again, I press down with my fingers to keep it in place, and then I can see where I am here. I am gonna scoot it a little bit closer so it'll be easier for me to see. Again, keeping it on that 0 line using the crack in the sidewalk here. And I'm gonna be able to see that going all the way to the tip of the plane. So we can see here, based on the location of the plane tip with the measuring tape, that we're at about 224 centimeters. Again, I want to try to use centimeters, which are the smaller numbers on my measuring tape compared to the bigger inches. The second way that you can measure your plane is if you have some sort of meter stick or yardstick. These are a way that you can measure the distance to your plane, because you can put them together in order to measure longer distances. The way that you would do this, if I want to get to my plane, is I would place my first stick, my first measuring stick, yardstick, or meter stick, and I would place it at the start line. And then you can see I'm going to use another one and put them together. And then I can see I still have some distance to go. So I'm just going to remember, okay, this is 100. So I'm going to move it over here. So I had 100. This one is 200. So 226 centimeters, 226 centimeters. Another option for measuring your plane is going to take you a little bit longer, but it'll definitely still work. So if you have an ordinary ruler, you can definitely use a ruler to measure the distance of your plane. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but it can be done. So for example, the first thing I want to do is notice how long this ruler is. So if I look at this ruler here, I notice that it is 31 centimeters. So as long as I know how long the ruler is, I can use this in order to measure my plane. So I'm going to put it at my start line, and then I'm going to put my finger and move it. So that was one ruler. This is 2 rulers, 3 rulers, my finger, 4 rulers, 5 rulers, 6 rulers, 7 rulers. Okay, I'm getting closer here now. So I'm going to write down 6 rulers, because that's what I've done so far. And then I'm going to measure from this point to where the bottle cap is. I'm going to use my pen to kind of go across here, and that comes in at 29. So my measurement for this would be 29 plus 6 rulers. So after you've measured your first throw of airplane number 1 for round number 1, remember you're going to fly this again, right? So you're going to come back to your starting line, you're going to throw and launch your plane, and you'll repeat the steps to measure it. And that's with plane number 1 for round number 1. Then you're going to put that aside, and you're going to get your other paper airplane. You're going to do the same thing again. You're going to take your second paper airplane, throw it twice, and measure both times. After you've done that, after you've flown 2 different planes, you will have some data. You will know which one of these planes worked best. And that's going to bring you to round number 3, where you're going to build another plane using the knowledge that you've gained to either beat your best record or to tie it. Okay, so again, in round number 3, you have the opportunity to try another plane design, or maybe you'll try the same one again. You also have the option to change your paper type. So if you want to try printer paper, you want to try newspaper, construction paper, whatever you might have at home, you can change the paper that you do your plane on for round number 3.